So Stephen, Louise, you're into your 28th year of Dinosaur Designs. Tell us about how it got started and what the growth has looked like.
Well, it all started at art school basically, and we were looking at, life beyond. When you get to art school, it's all about art school, and towards the end, you start to think, well, I'm now basically qualified to be unemployed. Art school trains you to be an artist in the studio on your own working. So Louise has great experience in what it's like to be in the art world, grew up in a creative family, and she knew firsthand what it was really all about. So I had stars in my eyes, of course, and she's...
Both my parents were artists.
And she convinced me pretty easily that, you know what, it's going to be pretty tough if you think you're going to be living off your artwork. And we thought, well, let's try and use our creative abilities and go about creating our own world. And that's, I think the most important thing is the idea that we need to do something and the way to do it. And then you start to fill in the pieces.
And how important was that melding of sort of a really sort of life experience and reality of what it's like in the life world and stars in your eyes creative?
I don't know.
Well, I guess we started off, and it's part of the emphasis in a way. You start off because you start enjoying and loving doing what you're doing, and then it kind of led us to the markets. So we started the Paddington markets, and then from the Paddington markets we started wholesaling, and then close into wholesaling we were invited to be part of an exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, and then from there we started wholesaling into London. So you find that one thing sort of leads to another, and it was really quite unexpected for us in the sense that we were doing something that we were doing as a weekend job in a way whilst we were studying at art school. We were in our postgraduate year, that ended up turning into something that we really loved and enjoyed and continue to go on with.
And was sort of the quality of your work really what drove that, or were you quite proactive in building the business in the early stages?
In the early stages we were experimenting more, really. We were experimenting with materials. We started printing t-shirts and printing fabrics, and I was wholesaling fabrics with a small little business that I had. Stephen was making earrings. Leanne, our third partner then, was knitting jumpers for the Squire store, and so we were all, three of us were all quite creative, and we were all doing our own things, and we came together and started Dinosaur Designs and started wholesaling and started working at the markets on the weekend. So it really grew quite organically, really.
Okay, and Stephen, was this your first experience in running your own business?
I've always made and sold things. Through art school I was doing that on my own as well. I was making jewellery, and I was actually selling it to the store that offered us an exhibition when we were in the markets, a store called Cash Palace. And Elaine Townsend came to our market stall, and we already knew each other, we had a relationship. And she said, oh, so this is what you're up to. Haven't seen you for a while. And she said, I'd love to work with you again. Why don't we organise an exhibition and we'll launch you into my store? And that really gave us a fabulous leg up into, the wholesaling, which is always the first stage of any business, I think, a creative business, is you start selling to retailers. And yeah, it was a good store like that backs you. You can approach other stores, or then other stores approach you about sales.
So Stephen, was Dinosaur Designs your first experience running a business?
Yeah, I think in a formal way, yes. I'd already been making things and selling them to a retail store, so making jewellery on my own. So I guess that's running a business, isn't it? You walk in, you sell some things. It's very fundamental. But Dinosaur became, when we decided on a name, I think that's when you actually formalise it in your own mind. You're creating a business and going about creating a business. And I think that mindset is good for you. It changes, it introduces, I guess, a bit of discipline to what you're doing, and there's a framework of which you're starting to fill out. And that's how things grow, when you start to fill out, the business, as it were.
Now, often creatives grapple a bit with the sort of formal side of running a business. Did you guys experience that at all?
Yeah, we did. We were 3 art students.
Still do.
Yeah, no, but we were 3 art students at the time, and really we were trained as art students, and we were trained in painting and drawing and art history, and running a business really wasn't part of our course. So it was good in a way that our business was quite small, and we started it quite small. We started with $200, and and it grew very organically. But as the years went on, 10 years into the business, and then further into the business, we had to get a business coach to really restructure the business. We found that with the more people that we were employing, the structure became that we had, our organic structure, it was very difficult to run the business.
We were just making it up as we were going along. If it sort of sounded good, we would say, oh, let's create, we're working on silver, let's create a silver department. So then we'll get a head of silver department. So before you know it, we had this series of managers all across, this huge layer of managers. And when the business coach came in, he actually said to us, he said, astounding, you are where you are on this structure.
Is that right?
Yeah. he said, look, hats off, it's incredible that you've come so far. And what then he went about doing for us was literally gave us a haircut and got us back in shape. Set a structure that you can run the smallest to the biggest corporation. It's pretty fundamental, but if you've never actually gone to study, you don't learn these basic 101 lessons. So that was a great experience for us. And since doing that, and we did this, it was almost a full renovation of the structure of the company, how people work, the systems. It's really helped, and it came at a very important time in terms of the life of our business, and because we started this process pre-08, and the organisation that came in and pre to the GFC hitting was crucial, because it was almost, our boat was a lot more seaworthy sailing into those waters.
What were the biggest lessons then you took away from that? If you were to do it again, 10 years before that, what would you say to a small business?
Oh, look, keep turning up. It gets tough. It gets really hard, and there are days when, or you can go a whole year and you've virtually making no money, and you think, why am I doing this? And if we didn't continue to turn up, then we wouldn't be here we are today.
Yeah. I think it's also a big part of it also is love what you're doing, really enjoy it. And if you really put all the love and enjoyment into it, it makes a huge difference to your business.
It's given us so much back. Yeah,
it really has.
The process has been wonderful.
Yeah, and I guess you have to adapt, and you have to be nimble as a small business. And I mean, obviously, we employ about 80 people now, but we're still quite a nimble business in the sense that we've been able to open and contract when things have got a bit tougher. We've sort of contracted and opened when things have got a bit better or a bit busier. So it's having that nimbility in this market.
Because, 80 people, that's a pretty big business. How have you gone about managing that growth from just a few of you at the start?
It's been so slow. We're looking at 28 years, so that's a long time. And it's just, I think you've just learned how to do things as you go along. And you run into, I think, rapid expansion is always, that's the hardest thing for anyone to manage. And we've never really experienced that. We were an overnight success in 10 years. So,
yes.
That's just one of those things. It's always been slow. It's been very slow.
Was it a bit of a conscious decision to keep a lid on growth?
Not really, no.
No, I mean, we've always wanted to grow the company, but it's I guess we've gone with the times, and we've floated with our market in a sense. As our business has grown, we now have 8 stores. And we have a store in New York, and we wholesale around the world. So, and the online aspect of our business. So we've grown with the business, but it's also, I think one of the key things also is having a great team working with you.
Sure.
And having the right people working with you, and getting the right advice at the right time. It's very, I think naturally we've been lucky to have a good instinct for that. And I think it's held us through a time when we were more of an organic business, and we knew when we really needed to get more structure back in there by getting our business coach in.
And how big a consideration has lifestyle been in managing that?
I think we've always valued lifestyle. Number one, enjoyment of what we're doing, where we are, where we're living, how we're going about doing what we do. And I don't think that's been a conscious, it's almost, we've just demanded it of ourselves, that we want to enjoy. That was the whole reason why we wanted to use our own creative abilities to run our lives, because that's what you do. You actually live a life as opposed to working a job. I think that's not something that we were particularly interested in doing. And in fact, I've got to this point in my life, I've never been employed.
That's a great result. Now, Dinosaur Design's famous for its jewellery, terrific products. You expand into homewares, which is another great success, and now you're moving into furniture. How have you sort of made those decisions on what to take on next?
I think when you're a business as old as ours is now, it's about keeping the vitality and keeping it relevant and relevant to your customers and also to keep them inspired as well, and want them to come back and be on the journey, on the Dinosaur Designs journey in a sense with us. So that's been a really important part of that.
And also on a more selfish level, we really enjoy the challenge of a new design project.
We do.
It's really exciting, the problem solving, the excitement of, you set something the night before you go home. You can't wait to get back here in the morning to see what, the experiment has worked.
See what's happened.
You run into the workshop and you drag it out of the mould, and sometimes you think, oh, all right, or sometimes you think, oh, disaster, So it's fraught, but it's so much fun. You love the excitement of that.
It's almost like a little sort of science lab, isn't it?
Because it's exactly what it is.
Yes,
it is a lab. It's a studio of experimentation. That's what we do.
And that's one of the reasons why we love working in manufacturing here as well, is that as a designer it gives you that mobility that when you're creating something you can immediately get it in the pipeline, get moulds made and see how it's responding and see how it's reacting.
And test it almost, quite early on with our own market. So we get to manufacture. It keeps us very nimble making our own products here in Australia. It really allows us not only to be nimble, it allows us to introduce all sorts of craziness into our shops that I think you would struggle, A, communicating with someone else in another factory, and B, you'd have minimums. So what happens in that process is I think the craziness gets dumbed down a bit through the, you have to order a minimum of that, so then you cut your colours down, and then you mix two colours together. Oh, that's going to make it that trouble, and that trouble will communicate it. But when we do it here, we can go. Louise and I, we walk into the workshops and do it ourselves. We can have a little play and with an idea, or work closely with our development team, and it's very immediate for us, and it's right where we love to live. So that helps as well.
Has there ever been any consideration to offshore some of your manufacturing?
No, not really. No.
It wouldn't really work for us because we love working in the process as well. So
we'd have to go and live there.
Yeah, we would.
Okay, now with such a unique product and manufacturing process, obviously you guys have really got to be on top of every stage of that. How important are defined roles and processes around the manufacturing process?
Well, it's crucial.
Yeah, when we got rearranged and we got one production manager, that was clever, rather than a multitude of production managers. That really simplified how we go about making, and it's quite incredible the difference that made to us, where one person deciding where staff gets allocated, who does what in which department across all the different disciplines that we explore. And that's worked really well for us, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah.
Now you've had some terrific brand advocates, Elle Macpherson, Alicia Keys, some really sort of Hollywood stars who wear your products. How do you sort of foster that brand advocacy, and how important has that been?
You're just being there. You just have a shop and people come and buy it. And then people learn about us, and then stylists see it, and then the stylists quite often introduce it to the stars.
And also being in those overseas markets as well. When we started selling to Liberty's in London, or Harvey Nichols, or to Bergdorf's in New York, and having the store in New York, you actually have much more accessibility in the sense that those stylists and those people and those magazines are in those markets. Seeing your pieces and styling those people. I mean, the Elle Macpherson, that came to us in Australia. She was doing a calendar and with a photographer here, and she actually personally chose those necklaces to wear. So it's it's marketing, it's brand, it's being out there and being visible.
Because it all sounds very organic, that marketing approach. What does the process really look like from your end when you're trying to push your new products out there?
We've got a lot better at it. We used to be, all pretty chaotic and all over the shop. We would just make a piece and release it straight away. There wasn't any strategy. But there are other things we've learnt over time. We've learnt to work a year in advance with all our ranges. Oh yeah, we're so disciplined now, it's frightening. But it's almost like we're fighting. We try to fight the system, Louise and I, all the time. Our development manager, he's poor guy. We've always got something more that or a change we have to make.
Right.
You know that, and then finally, he tries to nail it shut, and then we go.
But in a way, we've kind of crafted it for us in a way. We've crafted it so that it works for us in the work and the designs that we're doing. So, and that's the beauty of having your own business.
We're a lot better at all things that we do. Over time, if you're still in business, it's because you've got better at, I guess, at all sorts of things.
And do you still maintain a business coach and advisory board today?
No, not really. We've worked quite intensely for that period, took on the lessons and then started applying them. And I think that works for us.
And now also there's two of us.
Yeah.
And our business coach have coached us through.
And I guess we have an advisory board because we have a lot of professionals, lawyers that we work with in different areas. And friends, just friendships with people that have businesses as well. We talk all the time with companies that we collaborate with. We talk a lot about business, just when we catch up and have a coffee, all sorts of it. And you learn so much from your friends and their experiences. So
Louise, the business started with 3 co-founders. How's the structure changed over the journey?
It's the last 5 years. It's just been Stephen and I. When we went through our business coaching, and a lot of change was happening, and you discover also that there were sort of different needs and different sort of dreams that we all ended up having. And I guess during that process, we sort of it naturally our third partner we went in different directions, and she decided to go in another direction. So it just naturally took its own course, and now in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it was the process. He said he'd shine a bright light into every corner of the business, and you will be surprised at what happens. He said that in the beginning. And I think he'd been through this experience with companies many times before. You often call in a coach when things aren't going well. Yeah. And one thing we did discover was that the partnership, which had been so successful, was not being successful anymore. And those reasons sometimes are obvious and sometimes they're not. And the process of consultation and discussion with him, we just unearthed that we had different ideas of what we wanted the business to be at that point.
We wanted to continue to grow the business
and pretty much the same journey. And our partner Leanne had different ambitions which didn't sort of fit with us. So yeah, we worked out that parting was possibly the best solution for that at that time.
Was it a difficult process having a business coach come in and give you a very frank, independent assessment of where the business was? Was that tough?
Quite confronting, the whole thing was, Nuts and bolts wasn't so much, but I think it was, he provided a mirror for us to have a look at ourselves as well at the same time, because the business is down to you personally and the decisions you're making. And sometimes you can be making decisions for reasons that you haven't thought through. So you need to be, open to the fact that, well, why am I making these decisions? What's the driving force? And
I guess also we feel a great responsibility to the people who work for us as well, and all the time. And we have people that have worked with us for 15 to 10 years and longer. So we feel very, our team's very important to us, and we feel really responsible to them as well.
Now, many designers and retailers in the industry go down the mass-produced route. It's very cheap. There's a price and cost incentive of doing so. You're a bit unique though. What does your manufacturing process look like?
Well, we've developed that, and again, and it's ongoing. It's always developing. But we make everything here in our Strawberry Hills pirate ship, which is kind of the way we like to think about it. And in saying that, a pirate ship, we're very much self-contained. We are our own entity. We make everything here.
We are a bit Willy Wonka, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little Willy Wonka-ish.
It is.
And it gives us really good focus on what we're making, how we're making it. And I really feel that people are starting to respond to that. In a world of mass-marketed products, we're not everywhere. We don't intend to ever be everywhere. We can't be, a massive company. We're really happy just doing the the smaller things that we're doing. And
we love the nature of it being a one-of-a-kind piece, and that each piece is handmade in our studio. We love that, and we know everyone who makes that piece, and we love the whole journey of that piece coming through so many different hands in our studio. We love that.
Somebody once said, I thought it was quite beautiful, they pick up our bowl and they can feel like it's a 3D poem. They can feel the hand of the maker because it's been hand sculpted, it's been then loved into existence by people in this studio, and some people get that. They really, so, you know, whether they realise it or not, that's a big part of what we do. How it's made is very important to us.
Is that one of your greatest competitive advantages then, being able to do sort of offbeat projects in small runs?
Well, the concept
Definitely,
of competing,
yeah.
I don't know, we're not really competitive in many ways.
We don't feel that we're competitive. We feel like we're on our own island in a sense, making pieces. But I think definitely in the market, I think you do, for us, like going to the market, say in New York, we've been there now for 15 to 20 years selling there in that market. And you really have to have something else to say because it's a massive market.
The whole world's going to New York, yeah.
But you really do have another have another point of view or something else to bring to that market because that market is so accomplished. You just get swallowed up in it if you don't have another point of view.
So was that a conscious thing to differentiate yourself to such an extent that you didn't have competitors?
I think we've always, I don't know if it's conscious, we've just done it because we've always strived to create something new. And I think that process allows you to be individual.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to worry, you don't need to worry about originality if you're making your own pieces and you're really pushing what you think is new territory.
Because it really takes care of itself in a way,
doesn't it? It takes care of itself, yeah. I think originality is a mindset. It's not really a conscious one, but it's just it's part of the process, or a result from exploring and constantly looking for new things.
Yeah.
So you've established a fabulous product, really strong brand with an international presence. What are your top tips for other small businesses wanting to emulate that success?
Oh, when it's tough, keep turning up.
Yeah. And enjoy what you do, love what you do. Understand yourself and understand your customer, but also keeping relevant at the same time, keep it exciting and interesting.
It has to have a different, as Louise said, it has to have a different angle for people to appreciate it. And we're in a world where I think design is becoming a very strong component to a lot of people's lives. It's really grown in the years that we've been involved in this industry. I think we did homewares originally because we were moving out of home, we couldn't find things that we liked, bowls and things. So we thought, let's make our own. And now there's a lot more available and there's a lot more design savvy people. So I think it's good and difficult, but that's just the nature of the world, I guess.
But also having a 5-year plan is good, keeping your dreams alive, have the big dreams, have those dreams and keep them alive and have them as seeds. And it's amazing how they eventuate and how they grow. Also keeping abreast of your cash flow and your budget.
Yeah, your costs.
And your
Make
costs,
sure you can afford it. Because that's the thing, I think a lot of people have sailed into the hard times of the last few years and they can't afford it anymore. They never thought it would change. But we were spoilt, 20 years of non-stop growth. That gives no one the skill set for the slippery dip on the other side that we've all experienced. And we had to learn a few tricks in the last couple of years to get through it. Yeah, it's a different skill set. Managing a shrinking market, that's a whole new world for us. We'd only ever known growth. Yeah.
But also understanding your brand as well. You know, we're known for our colour and our boldness, but also for our delicate and for our metal and our sterling silver. So it's understanding all that as well, understanding your market.
Well, it's a terrific story for a couple of qualified to be unemployed people. Look forward to a bright future.
Thanks,
Thank
Alex.
you so much, Alex.